Hello everyone, so today I welcome you to Espresso with Kero, which is basically the TLDR of tea with Kero. I'm going to boil down the 1 hour and 40-minute podcast that I had with Alchemy Yetti, TLDR, short version, condensed version of what we talked about and what we learned. So without further ado, let's go. So first of all, the first main thing that we learned that we've established is Blade & Soul is a Korean MMO. By definition, a Korean MMO is going to be super grindy. You're going to need to invest a lot of time or a lot of money in order to progress in this game. You can either invest your free time by playing the game free to play, or you can invest a lot of money to save time and progress very quickly. The second thing that we've established is to not play alone. If possible, come into Blade & Soul with a friend. That's what I did. I came into Blade & Soul because a good friend of mine, Tintin, told me about it. I just finished watching King's Avatar, such a great anime. I was like, man, I really want to play an MMO. And my friend was like, hey, I play Blade & Soul. You want to give it a shot? I was like, hell yeah. So, we both went in, we had a blast. And just by doing that, you just have so much more incentive and so much more drive to play the game because you're playing with a friend or you're playing with multiple friends and you're just there to have fun and enjoy each other's company. If you want to progress in this game, you're going to need to make friends. Unfortunately, this game is not a solo game. You're going to need to join a raid. You're going to need to join a guild. You need to make some friends so that you can run in certain dungeons together. There are a lot of dungeons, especially when you get higher up in the difficulty, that you really want to have voice communication, or you want to have people that know what they're doing, or you just want to have a group of familiar faces or at least familiar names that you can play with together. That way you can have fun and there's consistency in what you do every single day. That's one of the biggest challenges that a lot of players face, is finding a group of players to play together. Another thing that I want to point out is Blade & Soul can be free to play. You can play the game without spending a single dollar and still progress in the game. The only challenge that you'll have is you're going to hit certain walls depending on whether you're playing solo or with a friend. If you're playing solo, there are going to be a lot more challenges that you're going to have to face. However, if you're playing with friends, it's a lot easier. So when you hit certain dungeons and you're stuck and you need to progress through them, you're finding help on F8 is very difficult because everyone on F8 just wants to get their dailies out of the way, get their money, get their rewards, and leave. However, if you're playing with a group of friends, then they're more understanding. By having a core group of friends that go in and you can learn dungeons together. For example, when we went into Shadowmoor. When I first went into Shadowmoor, I had no clue what I was doing. And we just figured it out. We spent the time, we spent the effort to try to figure it out. We looked up guides online beforehand and we were just like, okay, so we kind of know how to do it, but you're not going to get it down on the first try. There are certain expectations that people have on F8 which are very unrealistic. They're like, oh, you must know mechs, and you come in and you're like, the dungeon just came out, I don't really know mechs. I sort of know the mechs, but I don't really. And it's very unrealistic. And for a newer player, it's even more daunting for you guys because you're going to come in and you'll be like, oh crap, it's my first time doing Ransack Treasury. And there's like instant wipe mechanics. So you get really scared, and there's a lot of anxiety that really prevent a lot of players from trying out these new dungeons because they don't have a group of friends that they can play with in a very casual and relaxed environment. Playing on F8 on these hard dungeons and trying to learn is very, very stressful and very difficult. The next point is you need to be patient. This game takes time. This game takes months and months and months to gear up. For a lot of players out there, you see my videos, you're like, wow, Kero, your summoner is so strong. You have a Ransu 9, you have blah blah blah. But I've been playing my summoner since a year ago. It's taken me a year, and I'm a cash user to get to where I am now. Keep that in mind. Took me a year of hard work playing the game about 2 to 3 hours every day. However, I'm also spending money on Trove. I spend money on RNG boxes. Do I spend an insane amount? To some of you, yes. To myself, I feel like I've spent a reasonable amount. However, just keep in mind that this game takes time, takes a lot of patience in order to gear up to get to where I am now, in order to progress, in order to get stronger. It's supposed to be difficult to progress through this game. You need to spend hours and hours and hours in order to get that certain equipment, in order to get that upgrade, in order to farm the materials to break through the items. That's just how the game is designed. So you just need to come into the game with that understanding. If this game is too grindy for you, then you might really want to look for a new game. This is a very sensitive topic, but I need to point it out. AP is not everything. That 1.1k AP, 1.2k AP is not everything. Just because you see everyone on F8 saying 1.1k AP, Naru Sanctum, etc., does not mean that if you get that AP, you're set. A lot of the time, you don't even need that much AP. You need to know how to do the mechanics. You need to know how your gear works, how they complement each other. Why do I tell everyone to quickly upgrade their weapon and upgrade their soul and upgrade their bracelet? Because those are multipliers. By having that, no matter how much AP you have, it doesn't really matter as long as those 3 pieces are upgraded. You could have 950 AP, you could have 1000 AP, but if you max out your bracelet, you'll be doing more damage than someone that has 1.2k AP that doesn't have their bracelet or has a level 1 bracelet. You're going to be doing more damage than them because of multipliers. So even though I understand everyone on F8 is using 1.1k AP, they're using AP as an indicator for skill or an indicator for admission to their party. But that is because that's the quickest thing that they can quickly check your F2 profile just to see if you're strong enough to just brain dead DPS the entire dungeon and finish it ASAP. For those players out there that do not have 1.1k AP, I really strongly recommend you to start your own parties. Recruit by yourselves. I recruit all the time. I'm one of those very rare nice people that recruit with no AP requirement. I always just type something troll. I just type hui, let's go, fast run, and then just accept anyone that joins. It doesn't really matter to me, because I know that I can hard carry the entire party. However, for someone that is undergeared and maybe you need a certain dungeon for an event or you need a certain dungeon for your daily, I would recommend maybe posting saying that you need a carry for a certain dungeon and like try recruiting like that. I'm pretty sure there are a few people out there. There's a small minority of nice people. I've surrounded myself with them. I'm pretty sure there's a good 10% of the community that are willing to help people, that are nice people. So putting yourself out there saying that you need the help, that maybe you'll post like Naru Sanctum need carry run, and then someone might just pop into your game and be like, yeah, no problem, man, I got you. And that might help. I just don't see that very often in F8. I don't really see too many people asking for help. So I just post mine and I say no requirements, anyone can join, I'll carry you all. And I do, because there are days where I don't have my pre-made to play with, so I'm just more than happy to help the community. So we also talked about things that we can do to fix the F8 mentality of the AP. So what Alchemy Yetti and myself just came to a conclusion to was maybe we could put a special title on someone. For example, if there's like a implemented parse system where you fight Moyan or you fight the Longwei, and it just records your average DPS, and then it'll just record that and be like, okay, this player does an average DPS of 100k, and you could put that as a title or something on your F2 profile. So when people are recruiting, instead of recruiting saying that you need this much AP, be more like, you need 50k DPS to join my party, you need 100k DPS, 80k DPS to join my party. And you would join in, they check your F2 profile and be like, okay, you deal an average of X DPS, and then they can decide if they keep you or if they remove or if they kick you. Something like that might be more it's more useful. So that's what I feel. Another thing is to ignore the haters. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of salt. There's a lot of people that are very negative in this game, unfortunately. I really think it's really important to just ignore them. When you're progressing through the story or through F8, you're bound to meet some really nasty people. However, likewise, you're also going to meet some very good people. Some days are going to be worse than others, but what I really do recommend is when you meet those good people, talk to them. Talk to them, ask them to add them, try adding them as friends, get to know them and be like, hey, do you want to keep doing, do you want to do the next dungeon with me? Or do you want to do the next daily with me? So, for example, if you're on F8, keep in mind that after you clear the dungeon, you can take the portal back to the lobby, the waiting room, the spawn room at the very beginning before you go back into the dungeon portal. You can wait there, and then the leader of the party can press escape, go to exit, and then you can exit as a team. By exiting as a team, you stay together in the same party and you can select the next dungeon. So this is a good way in order to do multiple dungeons with the same team. So let's just say, that you meet 2 or 3 really cool people and you're like, wow, I want to keep playing with them. Then you can suggest that, oh, let's go to the lobby and then exit as a team. That way we can stay together as a pre-made and we can do the other dungeons. And just slowly but surely build up your friends list like that. That's a very good tip that I can give people because that's what I did when I went into the NA server at the very beginning when I was a nobody. You can check all the way back to my first recruitment video. Back then, me and Levi were like, let's make strawberry pancakes. We made the guild and we both made recruitment videos and nobody applied to us. It's pretty funny. Not a single person applied to the guild. And so what we did in the end was we just started playing together on F8 and we met cool people. And the people that we liked, we just added them to the guild or we added them to our friends list. And we just slowly, that's how we built up our community. That's how we built up our friends. So Levi made his Discord and we invited everyone to the Discord. And then we just slowly but surely built up a community and built up our friends list. Unfortunately, this game is rather small. The community is not that big compared to, big titles like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV. There are not a lot of players in Blade & Soul because this game is a Korean MMO and it is very hardcore. Back then, to upgrade your VT necklace, you need 1,200 moonstones. Thank goodness with the new patch, they lowered it. Now it's only 480. But think about it, 1,200 moonstones for the average player, for a free-to-play player, that would take you months. It legitimately would take you months. Even if you just sat there and farmed Naksun for 8 hours every day, it would still take you several weeks to get everything that you needed. So it was just bonkers. It's a very hardcore game. You really do need to put yourself out there because not many people are playing Blade & Soul. I can sum up maybe the community on the NA server would be 10,000, 20,000 at most. There's not a lot of player base compared to World of Warcraft, which has millions of players, compared to Final Fantasy XIV, which also has million players, or even Black Desert Online. Since the community is so small, you really need to be proactive to put yourself out there so that people know that you need help, or people know that you're looking for a guild, you're looking for a clan, you're looking for friends, stuff like that. However, it's the approach you need to think carefully about. Like, just throwing yourself out there into faction chat, throwing yourself out there into Reddit is not a very smart idea. As Alchemy Yetti said, Reddit can be a hit or miss. Sometimes you get a lot of positivity, it's nice, but also a lot of the times you get a lot of negativity. So it's a gamble when you post anything on Reddit. However, on faction chat, it is definitely not a good idea. Just posting anything on faction chat, people are most likely not going to see what you wrote because everything just goes so fast in faction chat. People are recruiting raids for the weeklies. People are recruiting people for Black Tower. They're trying to sell items. There's a lot of clutter in faction chat. So what I really recommend for people that are looking to join a community or join a guild or find a group of friends is really through streamers and influencers and maybe through their Discord channel, and you really need to test the waters. Like, for a lot of guild members that have joined Strawberry Pancakes, they legitimately just lurked in my Discord for 2 months and then started talking to me. That way they got a feel of how the community was, they got a feel of how I was. You know, when you look for a guild and when you look for a community, it has to click. If the community or if the guild has some guild values or some perspectives that don't fit your moral compass or your perspective, it won't work out very well. For example, if there's a guild that is solely made for progression and you are a casual player, you won't fit into that guild because that guild's super try hard, super dedicated, and you're looking for, you know, a more casual, more chill environment. It won't click. So you really do need to do your research. You really do need to understand and, you know, just mentally prepare yourself and just do the research on each guild that you might want to join and reach out to guild leaders. A lot of guild leaders are more than happy to spend 5 to 10 minutes of their time, sit down, talk to you, and just see, you know, if you're a good fit or not. And of course, there's another suggestion that I can also give out is for people to join raid recruitment. There's a raid recruitment Discord. I'll put it in the description down below, and you can go in there and just find raids. You can either find a raid that you want to participate in, such as for Black Tower, Vortex Temple, or Twilight Temple. You can also buy items they also sell items they do selling raids in that Discord. And you know, that Discord is just a nice place to lurk. Really, it's just a place that I just lurk there. I see how guilds are doing, I see if guilds are recruiting, and I just lurk there. To be honest, if you're a new player coming into the game, or even if you're a veteran looking for a guild, I advise you to lurk there, go through all the guild recruitment stuff, and see if there's any guild that sparks your interest, and then reach out to them and be like, hey, you know, maybe we can do something. There are a lot of guilds out there that are really casual, really friendly, and they're more than happy to help you gear up. You just need to put yourself out there, you need to put the effort and to reach out. So another thing is talking about people's mindset, talking about your mindset. When you go into a dungeon, you really don't want to be thinking that, oh, it's going to be easy because, like, you know, we did Desolate Tomb, Ebondrake Citadel, we did all these dungeons, we just blasted through them. You know, we didn't do any mechanics, we just DPS and everything dies. When you get to the harder dungeons, for example, when you get to Naru Sanctum, when you get to Irontech Forge, Ebondrake Lair, all of those dungeons above, you do need to do some sort of mechanics in one way or the other. Don't be too impatient and just rush in and try to kill everything really fast, because most of the time you're going to burst the boss really hard, get to the mech phase, and then wipe, because nobody knows what they're doing for the mechanics. So instead, I really advise a lot of people to step back, do some research on how to do the dungeon. You know, I do have a lot of guide videos on certain dungeons, even on certain raids. However, I am missing on quite a few. I'm working on that, I'm sorry. And I really do recommend a lot of players to just watch videos, watch guides, or read the guides, have a better understanding of what you're supposed to do, and then go in. Don't go into a dungeon blind and expecting to be carried, because then you'll never learn. And one day when your friend comes in and you want to show them how great you are or how awesome you are, you can't teach them anything because you don't know the mechanics yourself. And then in the end, it just causes frustration or causes embarrassment, and it's just not a good feeling, right? And don't be afraid to fail. If you look at my older videos, I have failed a bazillion times, but I've always gotten up and just dusted myself off and continued. Tons of memes were made of me, but it's not a bad thing to fail. You learn from each failure. For example, at the very beginning, I was terrified of Black Tower or Skybreak Spire, because I didn't know how to lead a raid. Back then, I was a solo player. I didn't know how to lead a raid. I just went in, and then, like, Levi was the social one back then. He was, quote unquote, the guild leader back then of Strawberry Pancakes. I was just the advisor. So I did all the, you know, behind the scenes, the paperwork, the organization, but Levi was the charismatic one that came in and led the raid. There was one day where Levi was unable to join the raid, and I had to take lead. I was terrified because I've never led a raid before. You know, Blade and Soul is the first MMO I've ever played that has raids. So I was just like, well, okay, let's try this. And, you know, it was horrible. I ended up wiping the team. I think I killed the team 6 times total. I forgot. There's a video that Levi did. I think the kill counter was like 36 kills. I killed the team constantly because I was doing buff transport and I was doing the shot calling for the first boss in Skybreak Spire or Black Tower. And it was very, very frustrating. But, you know, even though a lot of memes were made, but I learned from that. And now you need me to do buff transport? No problem. You know, I learned from my failures. And it's really important to not be afraid to fail. You're bound to hit challenges, and if you don't try, you're never going to improve. You're never going to learn. So just don't be afraid to fail. Like, I have failed a bazillion times. If you look at all of my older videos, Black Tower progression took us 8 weeks to clear Raven King. It took us 8 weeks, which is quite a long time. However, it doesn't matter. Blade and Soul is not a race. You're not racing against anyone. Take it in your own pace. So, you know, my guild, Strawberry Pancakes, is slightly slower. It doesn't matter, though. As long as we do everything our way and do it in our pacing, it's fine. It's not a race. You don't need to clear Skybreak Spire, Vortex Temple in 2 weeks. What is the point? There's no need. Just take your time, you know? People might be slow learners. People might have technical difficulties. People might have a bad day. There's no need to jump down their throats and give them a hard time about it. What you should be doing is helping them. You know, give them a helping hand. Figure out what's wrong and help them. So, you know, that's about failures, about Black Tower. Vortex Temple. Vortex Temple took us 12 weeks to clear. 12 solid weeks. We were stuck at SK for 8 weeks. At week 7, we were at our breaking point. I was very, very pressured to just throw in the towel and give up. And we got very lucky that we cleared on the 8th week. Running a raid is stressful. It's bound to be stressful. And it's the guild leader and the raid leader's responsibility to manage the stress and, you know, communicate with everyone and tell everyone it will be okay. However, telling them it's going to be okay is not enough. You need to make sure that they're going to be okay. So there's a lot of responsibility and there's a lot of stress on the guild leader and the raid leader. However, it's also very rewarding because you know that when your raid or when your guild does that breakthrough and progresses, you can take pride in that, knowing that you played a big part in this progression raid, in this breakthrough, in this achievement. There's going to be a lot of challenges in progression. However, just don't stress out too much about it. Just take it in stride, you know? You don't need to be a miracle worker and to put out all the fires instantly. However, you do need to put out fires eventually. You need to solve problems eventually. Just take everything at your own pace. Take your time. And, you know, sometimes it's really stressful. Just take a step back, take a breather, take a 5-minute break, a 10-minute break, diffuse, and then look at the situation and analyze and try to troubleshoot it again. So while we're talking about raiding, the next point that we talked about was raiding is supposed to be fun. So you need to understand what type of person you are and what you're looking for in Blade and Soul. You could be super hardcore, you know, you want to be world first. If you want to be world first, there are guilds that do that. But you need the mental fortitude and you need to be mentally and physically prepared to put in the time and the effort to become world first. People don't get world first by not trying. They dedicate a lot of time, a lot of effort in order to achieve that goal. However, let's say that you're more like me. You're a mid-core casual player. You know, you play a lot because your YouTube channel depends on it, but you also have fun while you're doing it. You're not going to stress out over 1 week of not clearing Twilight Temple. You're not going to stress out over it. You're going to be like, okay, it's fine, don't worry. You know, what did we do wrong? We're going to look at the footage, review the footage, and then we're going to troubleshoot it. You really need to identify what type of player you are. There are players out there that are not suited for raiding. There are players, you just don't like to raid. It's perfectly fine. You don't have to raid to progress in this game. That's why there are multiple weapon paths. You have the raiding weapon paths with the Raven and Aransu and Grand Celestial. However, you also have the non-raiding path, with the Dawnforge into the Storm Dragons. So don't worry about it. There are choices. You don't have to min-max everything. Especially if you're not, a hardcore raider, if you're not a super tryhard, then it's perfectly fine to go the Storm Dragon path or the Exultant path. It's not as strong, but it's still good. So I touched base already on being a guild leader and a raid leader. However, I just want to emphasize a little bit more. I really do recommend guild leaders and raid leaders to understand and get to know their members on a more personal level, because that way it's easier to solve problems. Unless, of course, it's not your style. There are many ways to manage people and to communicate with people. However, the method that I personally use is I always get to know each of my raid members personally. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I know their dog's name, or I know their sister, brother's, mother's, father's name. At least I know their financial situation, or at least I know their mentality in the game. There are some people that work 12, 14 hours a day and come back and they just want to de-stress. They just want to take it easy. And they hop on a Blade and Soul and, that's it. There are other people that have depression. There are other people that have severe anxiety. These things are important to know, because when you're raiding, then okay, this guy, maybe I shouldn't jump down his throat or her throat about messing up a certain mechanic. Instead, I should approach them with a different method of communication. Maybe use reinforcement, maybe encourage them, because there are certain players that just buckle from pressure. And it's not even pressure that the raid is giving them. It could be self-pressure. So it's really important to understand each individual member and know how they operate, how they think, and tailor to their needs. That's just how I manage things in Strawberry Pancakes and how I manage things in my raid. That way, I have a better understanding of each member. I have a better understanding on why they're having a hard time on certain mechanics, or why they're having a bad day. There are times where people are going through a very difficult day, or a very difficult time or period in their life. For example, a family member passes away. It's very, very difficult to handle that. I've had family members pass away. It's devastating. And people use Blade and Soul or use gaming as a way to escape. So it's understandable that if we have a raid on that day, someone's underperforming, and you pull them aside and you talk to them. You're like, hey, what's up, man? And if you've built that level of trust, they're going to tell you, listen, someone very important to me passed away. And you need to analyze the situation and make the right judgment call. You need to either tell them like, okay, do you need some time off? Do you need a break? Do you need a moment to yourself? Or are you still okay? Do you still want to raid? What do you want to do? You really need to read the mood and understand what each player wants. Because there's nothing worse than having a raid where no one in the raid wants to be there. I've been there, and it's horrible. It's like, why are we raiding if no one wants to raid? It makes no sense. So as a guild leader and a raid leader, you need to be able to read the mood, read the ambience, understand what everyone wants and what everyone's thinking, and then make the judgment call. There are times where we can only raid 2 hours. We only raid 1.5 hours, and I just call quits. Because it's, people are just stressed out, people are tilted, people are just having a bad day. Some days are just going to be like that. You're just going to have to call the raid off and be like, listen guys, take it easy, take a chill pill, we'll diffuse. We'll come back next week. It's not a race. You don't need to finish the raid now. You don't need to finish anything now, because it's a game. You're here to enjoy it. Obviously, if you are going for world first, that's a totally different story. I'm just talking about how I am managing my guild. And that is the TLDR. It's slightly shorter. It's still a little bit long, but I hope you enjoyed this episode of Espresso with Kero, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
What can I say except you're welcome?